your boy Luke here for our round 3 prize picks targets for the Valspar Championship. We didn't have a video out yesterday for round 2. Of course, I did post my card here on the channel, just on the post section. So if I don't post a video, make sure to keep an eye out for that. I will post it on Twitter, Facebook, and of course here on YouTube. But we're back here for round 3. Our picks for today went 3 for 4, ended up cashing in for 1.5x value, which wasn't ideal. We ended up having Xander being the one guy who didn't hit. He missed an 8-footer for birdie on 11, and if that came through, we would have hit for 8x value. But it is what it is. We're moving on to today, at least with a little bit more cash in our pocket than we did yesterday. And of course, in this video, going to cover my top 5 props this time here for Saturday's round. I'm going to be there in person. I'm really looking forward to it. So trying to get this video out as early as I can so I can get to bed a little bit earlier, wake up, get over there to the course, and of course sweat these out in person. But with that being said, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. All right, on the screen you can see the data golf profile for Friday. Just going to go over a review of today's slate to get an idea of how the course played. So first off, this is Thursday's round. You can see played close to 1.1 strokes under par, but for Friday, played close to half a stroke under par. So nearly 0.6 of a stroke difference between the two rounds. And a lot of that came down to the wind, because if we separate this by waves, in the morning, it played to nearly 0.9 of a stroke under par. So would have just been a slight difference between round 1 and round 2. A lot of it due to pin locations. They tended to tuck a lot more of the pins here for Friday than what they did for the opening day. But in the afternoon, the wind became a factor. That was what we expected. We talked about it during my Showdown live stream yesterday. But also here for Saturday, wind is going to be a factor, because if we hop over here to the wind, you'll see that in the morning, you're actually going to have the worst conditions of the day. You're going to have 7 to 10 mile an hour sustained winds, which really aren't all that bad, but the gusts are in the 15 to 20 mile an hour range. You can see right around 8 to 9 a.m. when a lot of the people that are already up really far back in this golf tournament will be teeing off, are going to be playing. So the guys that are typically playing in those moist conditions in the morning, where you're able to stop the ball a lot closer to the hole, also dealing with more pristine greens that typically see an advantage, isn't going to be the case here for Saturday. In fact, I would much rather be targeting people that are teeing off closer to like 10, 11 a.m. at the very earliest. So they're only playing in that wind for an hour or so, or the guys that are in contention that are going to be dealing with 8 to even just 5 mile an hour winds for the rest of their day. The gusts are going to go upwards of 10 to maybe 13 miles an hour at right around 1 to 2 p.m. But for Florida, that is relatively benign conditions. In fact, it's really close to what we saw there on Thursday, when the scoring average was actually closer to 1.1 strokes under par. So the afternoon wave really could take it low tomorrow, especially considering the fact that the players that made the cut are the cream of the crop in this field. So you would expect them to play better by default. Let's go ahead and head over to the prize picks board and go ahead and look at what our card for Saturday is going to be. This is going to be a 5-leg card, which is a little bit different than the 4-leg card. I know a lot of you out there would rather play 3 and 4-leg cards. So just take your 3 or 4 favorite picks from this card and make your own, right? That's probably the best way to do that. In general, I play this 5-leg card. I usually play 2 to 3 other cards that are a combination of these props, usually just 3 and 4-leg power plays. That's how I construct my card for every single day. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with our greens in regulation props, though. But Russell Knox at 12 greens in regulation is something that I'm definitely taking a look at. This is somebody who's the number 2 shots gained approach player in this field over the last 50 measured rounds, gaining over 0.8 of a stroke per round, 8.09 shots gained approach per round. This is somebody who's used to hitting 13, even 14 greens in regulation per round on average, and especially at a golf course tomorrow where he'll be teeing off at 9:40 a.m. So he'll be dealing with some tough conditions for his first hour or two, but he's not like the guys teeing off at 6:30, 7 a.m. this morning that will be dealing with those gusts for most of their round. He'll really just be having it for those first 5 or 6 holes, and those last 12 holes will be in those perfect conditions where he'll be able to take target practice. In general, somebody who, even with those windy conditions, if you were to have them for all 18 rounds, I'd have him projected for right around 12.6 greens in regulation. But by splitting it up, I'm giving him half of his holes in hard conditions, half of them in the windy conditions that we expect for the morning. I still have him projected for 13.2 greens in regulation, which is a whole 1.2 more than what the prop has him at there. I like his chances to, at the very least, push for tomorrow's slate. and is probably my favorite prop on the entire board. Of course, we're taking the over there. Next up, we have Victor Hovland at 11.5. So we have even the hook to deal with there. If we get to 12, it's not a push. We're actually winning there with Victor Hovland. We'll be teeing off a little bit earlier than Russell Knox. He's at the same score, but ended up finishing later in the day, so does get the earlier tee time. But at the same time, this is an elite level iron player. He's one of the best players in the world when it comes to shots gained approach, somebody who routinely gains over half a stroke per round in the category. So for him to only have to miss 6 and still hit the over is pretty much a lock there. He's one of my favorite plays on the board. The only reason I don't like him more than Russell Knox, I have him projected for 13.1 greens regulation, which is just a little bit less than Russell Knox, is because of the tee time, right? He's teeing off about an hour before Russell Knox, which means he'll be teeing off in about maybe 8 to 9 of those holes in those windy conditions. But again, using my modeling, separating it by windy and tough conditions, still projected well over the 11.5 mark. Now moving over to fairways, there's a few props that I like actually taking the under on, and it's 2 of the guys up top. Xander Schauffele, who's been uncharacteristically accurate off the tee this week, and Adam Hadwin, who's usually pretty accurate off the tee, but 9 is an aggressive number considering that there's only 13 fairways at this golf course. Because there are 5 par 3s in play, again, we've talked about this there for round 1. Of course, hitting 9 is a much different task than doing it at any other golf course. 9 is a really high number for pretty much any slate, but especially here with only 13 in play. Xander Schauffele in general is an inaccurate driver. I mean, I can remember just a few slates ago, he was priced at 6.5 fairways, and that was at a course with 14 fairways. Of course, it was over there, I believe, at the Farmers, where much harder fairways to hit than what we have this week. But at the same time, he's not known for that accuracy off the tee. So the fact that he's priced with guys like Colin Morikawa, Kevin Kisner, Louis Oosthuizen, even Fitzpatrick that are priced below him, he should be well priced below those guys. So definitely somebody I'm comfortable taking the under on. Same thing with Adam Hadwin. You know, maybe if you're making a 3 or a 4 pick card, just take one of these 2 unders here, because if you're doing so, you only need to take one of them for the ROI, right? If you take all overs, that's when they start to cap you with your payout and whatnot. So trying to mix in one of these fades here on the fairways prop is usually a good idea. If you want to mix in both to get to the 12.5x value, like what we have for this 5-leg flex play, by all means, go ahead and do it, because Adam Hadwin, even though he's relatively accurate off the tee, he finds himself in contention, a spot that he's not necessarily the most comfortable with. We've seen that from time to time, especially over the last 3 or 4 months. Anytime he gets close to the lead, tends to go ahead and cough it up. He's not really the most clutch player. Again, he's more of a middle tier type player than anything here on the PGA Tour. And a lot of times when those guys get into contention, particularly after the 2nd or the 3rd round, you see them kind of fall apart. So for him to only miss 4 fairways and for us to push, I think that's more than reasonable, especially considering that he'll be playing in the easy conditions, but at the same time, when players are going to be more aggressive, right? They're going to be a little bit more willing to take out driver when you have less wind in play, because it's obviously a little bit easier to hit those fairways. But for Adam Hadwin, that also means he's going to be bringing in more dispersion off the tee, might be missing a little bit more left to right. So regardless of that, I have Xander Schauffele projected to hit 7.1 fairways, so well below the fairways hit number there. Absolutely love it. I have Adam Hadwin projected to hit 7.6 fairways in regulation. So obviously a little bit more than what we have for Xander Schauffele. So if you're making that 3 or 4 pick card, I would side towards Xander as the under that I'd be taking, but I'm comfortable with both of them. Now lastly, the last problem I'm looking at is Sam Burns under hole 14 shots. Sorry, that was a mouthful there. He's somebody who's absolutely taken apart the par 5s at this golf course. Last year set a record for the scoring on the par 5s there at Innisbrook. And this year is on a similar route, just absolutely dismantling them. He's accurate off the tee. He's extremely long, right? Somebody who can get it out there 330, 335 yards. One of the best long iron players over the last year and a half on tour. So hole number 14, it can play long. It's right around 570 yards, depending on what tee box they use. But he has more than enough length to get there in 2. But more than anything, he's also somebody that can birdie if he has to lay up. If he misses into the rough, he's more than capable of laying up to right around 110, 120 yards, sizing up a wedge in there and having a really solid day. So he's the last prop that I'm taking. I'm taking the under there on hole 14. But there's other guys I would take here as well. I mean, Victor Hovland makes sense. The reason we're not using him is we're already taking his greens regulation prop. I go to Colin Morikawa. You could take a look at Xander Schauffele if you're not using him for the under and fairways. Just a lot of guys for this hole that are bombers. They can get the ball out there that I'd also be considering on that hole. That's all I've got for the round 3 prize picks targets. Before you go on and get out of here, let me know down in the comments what your favorite prop on the board is. Doesn't have to be something that I highlighted, could be completely off of my radar, but whatever it is, make sure to go ahead and comment it below. Also, going to have content coming out for round 4 as well. I will be on premises, like I said before, so it's going to be coming out a little bit later because I got to freshen up, get back to the condo and everything like that, but I will have you guys covered, so look forward to that. Make sure you like the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We just hit the 1K mark, so trying to build towards 2K as fast as we can. I appreciate all of you guys. Good luck with all of your prop hunting for tomorrow's slate, and let's get this cash.